Okay, as promised, we're gonna look at an example of A5 in the OWASP. So A5 was the case web applications check URL access rights before rendering protected links and buttons. That means if I'm, for example, logged in as a user, the web application maybe doesn't show me specific buttons for functionality. However, applications need to perform similar access control checks when these pages are accessed. So just not showing me a button as a user is not enough, because as a user I might be able to issue an HTTP request and use the functionality anyways. And what I mean by that, I'm going to show in an example. This is the web application for managing courses at our university, and I have a button here for Tiny My List, which means a participant list, and I can see my lectures only here. So my lecture is offensive security. Here's a button for show me all participants of this lecture. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna click on show. Here is a participant list for offensive security for the lecturer Ruben Gonzalez. I can see, okay, 49 people signed up. If I scroll down a little bit, here the list would start with all participants and their data. This list is not allowed to be published, obviously. So this web application only shows me the button for my lecture, so I can only view my lecture. Well, if we look into the URL line, there's a get parameter, my ID course with an ID. Okay, let's see. If I change this ID, okay, I changed this ID, and all of a sudden there's another lecture title, but for some reason I can't see the participants of this lecture, but it still says participant list for Ruben Gonzalez. That's me. So there's another get parameter in the URL line, ID teacher ID.send. So if I play around with that, increment it, okay, now it says participant list 4 and another name. Okay, I can change this to something that probably doesn't exist. What happens is, oh, okay, I get an error message saying list index out of range. So apparently this web application issues a query to a database using the ID of the lecture and the ID of the teacher. So can we set it to something, I don't know, 6,420. This is the lecture communication and distributed systems. It still doesn't show me the participants. Now I want to see the list of participants, even though I shouldn't be allowed by the web app to see it. And for that I need to set apparently the ID of the teacher to the correct ID that is teaching this course. So I don't know this ID. What I would do as an attacker is, well, I'm gonna split my screen here. I have a Python script prepared. If you don't know Python, that's not a problem. That's part of this week that you get familiar with Python. What this does essentially is go through the IDs of the lecturers from 400 downwards, and then check if this field is something else than 0, and if it is, it prints me the correct ID. So I can start this with Python, let it run for a little bit, and it already found the correct ID. So with the teacher ID 369, it showed me 15 participants. So Gonna use this in the URL. And apparently the teacher for this course is Michael Rademacher. And if I would scroll down now, I could see the list with all participants of his course. I'm aware that we're not taking Google here right now. This is not a high profile target, but it's about the principle. And that is, here they check my access rights and only show me the buttons for the correct lectures, but if I play around a little bit with the URL, I can also see the information of other lectures, which shouldn't be possible.